Hi, I'm Mr. Pipsley and I'm glad to see you all here on this channel. If you're interested in hearing a story about zombies and how they took over the world, then you're in for a treat. But before I begin, I want to encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. By doing so, you'll be able to stay up to date with all the latest content and never miss out on any exciting stories. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into the world of zombies. I promise it'll be a thrilling ride. It was the year 2038, and the world was in chaos. A mysterious virus had spread across the globe, turning people into zombies. The government had been trying to contain the outbreak for years, but it seemed like the virus was only getting stronger. Now the infected had become soldiers, and they were being used to fight a war against the plants. The plants had become sentient, and they were fighting back against the humans who had been using them for their own gain for centuries. The war was brutal, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But the zombies were relentless, and they seemed to be winning the war. The main characters of this story were potato, cucumber, corn, and radish. They were all plants, and they had been fighting against the zombies since the beginning of the war. They had all witnessed the horrors of the battlefield, and they had lost many of their friends along the way. One day, the plant soldiers received word that the zombies had captured their leaders, and they were holding them hostage. The plant soldiers knew that they had to rescue their bosses, so they started to plan their attack. They decided to use catapults, bows, and traps to take down the zombie soldiers. They knew that they would be outnumbered, but they were determined to rescue their leaders. The battle scene was chaotic. The plant soldiers launched rocks and arrows from their catapults and bows, while the zombie soldiers charged at them with their weapons. The traps that the plant soldiers had set up proved to be effective, and many of the zombies fell into them. The battle raged on for hours, and both sides suffered heavy losses. But the plant soldiers refused to give up, and they kept fighting until they had defeated the zombie soldiers. Finally, the plant soldiers reached the room where their leaders were being held. They found potato, cucumber, corn, and radish tied up in the corner of the room. The plant soldiers quickly untied their leaders and led them out of the room. But as they were leaving, they noticed something strange. The zombie soldiers had started to get back up, even though they had been defeated. The plant soldiers realized that the virus was still active, even after the zombies had been killed. They knew that they had to act fast before the virus could spread even more. Potato, cucumber, corn, and radish came up with a plan. They would use their powers to create a serum that could cure the virus. They knew that they would need some human help to create the serum, so they contacted a group of scientists who had been working on a cure for the virus. The scientists were skeptical at first, but they soon realized that the plant soldiers were their only hope. They worked together with the plants to create the serum, and it was a success. The serum was distributed to the remaining humans, and the virus was finally contained. The plant soldiers had won the war against the zombies, and they had saved humanity from extinction. But as the dust settled, the plant soldiers realized that they had a new problem. They had no idea what to do with the remaining zombie soldiers. They couldn't just leave them wandering around, spreading the virus. After much debate, Potato came up with a solution. They would use the remaining zombies as fertilizer to grow more plants. The other plants thought this was a funny and fitting end to the story, and they all had a good laugh. And so the war between the plants and the zombies came to an end. The plant soldiers had won, and they had saved the world from the virus. They may have lost many of their friends along the way, but they had gained a newfound appreciation for the power of plants. With the virus contained and the war over, the plant soldiers returned to their peaceful lives, content in the knowledge that they had saved the world from disaster. They continued to grow and thrive, using the remains of the zombie soldiers as fertilizer to help their crops flourish. However, as time passed, something strange began to happen. The plants started to take on unusual characteristics, and they began to exhibit behavior that was far from normal. Potato, cucumber, corn, and radish were alarmed by the changes they saw in their fellow plants. They noticed that the plants were becoming more aggressive, and they seemed to be developing a taste for human flesh. The plant soldiers knew that they had to act quickly to stop this new threat before it was too late. They began to investigate, and they soon discovered that the serum they had created had unintended consequences. It turned out that the serum had not only cured the virus, but it had also given the plants the ability to think and feel like humans. However, this newfound intelligence came at a cost, as it also made them more susceptible to negative emotions like anger and hatred. The plant soldiers knew that they had to find a way to reverse the effects of the serum before it was too late. They turned to the same group of scientists who had helped them create the serum in the first place, and together, they worked tirelessly to find a solution. After months of research and experimentation, the scientists finally came up with a way to reverse the effects of the serum. They created a new formula that would restore the plant's natural state of being and put an end to their newfound aggression. The plant soldiers were overjoyed at the news, and they quickly administered the new formula to their fellow plants. Within days, the plants had returned to their peaceful ways, and the threat of a plant apocalypse was finally over. As for the remaining zombie soldiers, the plant soldiers decided to honor their sacrifice by creating a memorial garden in their honor. They planted beautiful flowers and plants in the garden, each one representing a fallen zombie soldier. The plant soldiers knew that they had come a long way since the war began, and they had learned a valuable lesson about the power of nature. They had fought against the odds and emerged victorious, and they were proud to call themselves plant soldiers. As for potato, cucumber, corn, and radish, they continued to lead their plant army with honor and pride. They knew that the future was uncertain, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. And if another threat ever arose, they would be ready to fight once again, armed with their catapults, bows, and traps, and with a newfound respect for the power of nature. But despite their newfound sense of confidence, potato, cucumber, corn, and radish couldn't help but feel a sense of unease about the future. They knew that the world was a dangerous and unpredictable place, and they couldn't help but wonder what other threats might be lurking just around the corner. One day, as they were patrolling the garden, they stumbled upon a group of curious creatures that they had never seen before. They looked like miniature robots, with glowing eyes and metallic bodies that shimmered in the sunlight. At first, the plant soldiers were wary of the robots, fearing that they might be some kind of new threat. But as they approached, they noticed something strange. The robots were carrying baskets filled with fresh vegetables and fruits. It turned out that the robots had been sent by a nearby community of humans who were struggling to grow crops of their own. They had heard about the plant soldiers' success in the war against the zombie soldiers, and they had come seeking their help. Despite their initial skepticism, potato, cucumber, corn, and radish decided to help the humans. They knew that they had a duty to use their newfound intelligence and abilities to help others in need, and they were eager to share their knowledge and expertise. Together, the plant soldiers and the robots worked tirelessly to help the humans grow their crops. They used their catapults, bows, and traps to ward off pests and protect the plants from harm. And before long, the humans were growing some of the healthiest and most abundant crops they had ever seen. As a token of their appreciation, the humans invited the plant soldiers to a feast in their honor. The plant soldiers were hesitant at first, but they eventually agreed to attend. To their surprise, they discovered that the humans had prepared a feast unlike any they had ever seen before. The tables were overflowing with fresh fruits and vegetables, each one prepared with care and attention to detail. As the plant soldiers sat down to eat, they couldn't help but laugh at the irony of the situation. They had spent so long fighting against the idea of humans eating plants, and now they were sitting at a table where the roles were reversed. But despite the humor of the situation, the plant soldiers couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. They had fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious, and now they were using their newfound intelligence and abilities to help others in need. As the night wore on and the feast came to a close, the plant soldiers knew that they had come a long way since the war began. They had learned valuable lessons about the power of nature and the importance of working together for the greater good. And as they looked out over the fields of crops that stretched out before them, they knew that there was still so much work left to be done. But they were ready for whatever lay ahead, armed with their catapults, bows, and traps, and with a newfound respect for the power of community and cooperation. As the plant soldiers continued their work in the garden, they noticed a strange and unsettling energy in the air. Something was different, and they couldn't quite put their finger on it. Then they heard it, the sound of marching feet, coming closer and closer with each passing moment. It was a sound they knew all too well, the sound of an approaching army. But this army was unlike any they had ever faced before. These soldiers weren't zombies. They were something far more terrifying. As the plant soldiers emerged from the garden, they saw the enemy soldiers advancing towards them. They were led by a towering figure with rotting flesh and glowing red eyes, a zombie boss. The plant soldiers had never faced an enemy like this before. The zombie boss was powerful and relentless, and his army of undead soldiers was a force to be reckoned with. But potato, cucumber, corn, and radish weren't about to back down. They rallied their troops and prepared for battle. The two armies clashed in a fierce and bloody confrontation, with catapults launching vegetables and arrows piercing the air. The zombie soldiers were fast and agile, but the plant soldiers were determined and fierce. The battle raged on for hours, with neither side gaining a clear advantage. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, something unexpected happened. The ground began to shake, and the sky grew dark. The air was filled with the sound of creaking wood and rustling leaves. And then, something truly incredible happened. The trees themselves came to life, rising up from the earth and attacking the zombie soldiers with their branches and roots. The plant soldiers watched in awe as the trees battled the zombie soldiers, and they realized that they weren't alone in their fight. Nature itself was on their side. With the trees on their side, the plant soldiers were able to turn the tide of the battle. The zombie soldiers were forced to retreat, and the zombie boss was defeated. The plant soldiers emerged victorious once again, and they celebrated their victory with a feast of their own. This time, there were no humans present, just the plant soldiers, the trees, and the other creatures of the garden. As they sat around the table, reflecting on their victory, potato, cucumber, corn, and radish couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, and they had done it by working together with the creatures of the garden and the forces of nature itself. But as they laughed and joked and shared stories, they couldn't help but wonder what other challenges lay ahead. The world was a dangerous and unpredictable place, and there were sure to be other threats lurking just around the corner. But for now, they were content to bask in their victory and enjoy the company of their fellow creatures. They had learned a valuable lesson about the power of community and cooperation, and they knew that they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Well, the story has come to an end. I'm sure you liked this story, and you will like it with pleasure. Also, subscribe to our channel and be sure to leave your feedback in the comments under this video. See you in the next video.